What you're about to watch is part of an online training that I do twice a month inside my Movement Makers program, where I coach entrepreneurs like you how to build an online movement, how to make money from it, and use it to make a huge impact on the world. Enjoy. You're ready for some content? Can we do this? So let me share my screen. Let's dive in. I'm pumped to be here. This is an extra special topic. Self-publishing versus getting an agent publisher. I've got 4 books. 2 of them, these 2 were self-published, and that's just through Amazon. This one was with Your One Word, was my first book, my major book. That was with Penguin Random House. That was with a 6-figure advance and the typical publishing deal. And then Built to Serve it's almost a hybrid. So we did Built to Serve with Mel Robbins' label, who she published the 5-second rule with. And it's a hybrid in that it was no advance on this one, but much bigger royalties. So typically with a publisher, you might get an advance, you might not, depends on how big your list is and your audience is. But you get paid very little for every book that's sold. I'm betting more on myself. And so zero on the advance compared to 6 figures on this one. And I get paid more for every book that I sell. So let's talk about how to pick self-publishing versus publishing to help you make the best decision. It starts off with, what are your goals? Okay, so anytime somebody's asking me, there's no one size fits all. It's like, what do you want to accomplish? So I'm going to start by making the case for self-publishing. Here's why you want to self-publish. 1, you have a bucket list to have a book. Some people just want to have a book. It's on their bucket list, or they promised their mom they'd write a book, or it was in their high school yearbook that they're going to have a book. Like, if you just want a book because it means something to you, because you want to have something on the shelf, or because it's on your bucket list, then the easiest thing to do is just self-publish it. You don't need to go through the hassle and headache and pain of trying to go get a publisher. Just make it yourself, and poof, you have your book. If you want to make money from the actual book, then you want to self-publish, because you keep just so much more of the revenue from each book compared to going with a major publisher where you make basically nothing, right? There's a small royalty on every single book sold. But if the goal is to make money from the book itself, you're going to self-publish. You keep just a much, much, much larger percentage. If you have other goals, which we'll talk about on the publishing side, there's reasons for that. But making money from the actual book, we're self-publishing. If you want to use it as a funnel for lead gen, so if you want to create a book, it's fast to set up. You then use that to then get into your funnel, to then get into your coaching, to get into your products, to then get into whatever you ultimately have to sell. You have a funnel attached to it. You'll get a much lower cost with your own book self-published than you will going with a publisher. So you get your book for cheaper. So it's easier to send out to people. It costs you less to start building your funnel at that front end compared to if you get a book with a publisher. So this is if you've got your sequence worked out, and you know your entry-level product, and then your next level product, and then your coaching, and then your mastermind, or whatever that looks like for you. At least having thoughts of a roadmap, a book can be a great first step in, and self-publish gets you at a great price. You get it out quickly. One of the biggest pains of publishing is it takes like a year to get the book out. It's a giant pain. It's other people critiquing you. It's slow as anything. It takes you a while to write it. And anybody who's gone through the writing process, you know how long it can take to write and rewrite and research and edit and all that stuff. But then when it's finally done, it's like, okay, I'm ready. Here we go. And then it's another year before the book actually comes out, just because of how long publishers take to go through their machine. So if you want to get something out, if it's May right now and you want something out this year, it's not going to happen with a publisher. So now we're already talking next year. If you want it out this year, you're self-publishing. You get it out super fast. You get to be in complete control. So another frustration with any bit of creative work is the critique to say, no, don't do that. Don't put in that chapter. Don't call it this. I don't like the name of your book. That's not going to sell very well. And it's crazy how little research a lot of the organizations do, a lot of the publishing companies do. When I was picking my cover, or when I was picking the title, it's all based off of their feel. There's no market data. There's no testing with people. It's really just whoever you're dealing with. Do they like the concept or not? And sure, they have some industry experience, so it's not like a total newbie opinion, but it's never based off of what the audience is actually asking for and needs, and they have very little knowledge about the audience that you're going after. So if you want to be in complete control, if you don't want to have somebody telling you what colors to use, what font to use, what layout to use, what graphics to use, what to call it, any of that stuff, then self-publishing is the way to go. You own the rights, which is a huge deal. So you can do whatever you want with it. Now, you can negotiate some rights into your deals if you're working with a publisher. So for example, I own the YouTube rights, the social media rights for my books. So I could just release the whole book on YouTube or on Instagram or on Clubhouse if I wanted to, because I own the rights. Because publishers haven't really caught up to that yet. Where they're not thinking, what, you're going to put a book on YouTube? Okay, sure, whatever. Here you go. Right. So you get to own the rights and do whatever you want with it in the future. So this is the case for self-publishing. These are the reasons why you want to self-publish. Okay, publisher. Why to go with a publisher? What is the reason? So 1, bestseller lists. If that means something to you, this is something that's never meant much to me, because you can game the system so easily to get on a bestseller list. People literally just buy their way onto bestseller lists, and the way that they do it, which nobody talks about, but movement makers, insider knowledge, let's share what happens. Like, how does somebody get #1 status? What they do is they drop the price for one day, or on Amazon, it's by hour. They drop the price of the ebook version to 1 cent. So for 1 hour or for one day, they drop the price to 1 cent. They then send tons of people, and you can hire servers to do this, whether it's your own email list, but they have a whole bunch of people with email lists that then just say, go buy this book for 1 cent, ebook. And then it blows up off the charts. Boom, you're a bestseller. And then the next hour it drops back down, and your time in the sun is gone, but you can say, I'm a bestseller. So if you want that, just because it adds some credibility or means something to you, then it's a lot easier to do it with a publisher than on your own. Prestige and branding. There is still some cachet to having a published book versus something that you self-published. It's dramatically dropping. This is one of the biggest fights that I got into with my agent. It's like, you need a book, Evan, you need a book, Evan, you need a book. It's like, why do we need a book? You need a book to get on stage. You need a book to get partnerships. You need a book to open doors. Like, Steve, I can open doors with my YouTube channel. I don't need a book anymore. It's not that books can't help you do that, but there's lots of ways to do that. If you had a big YouTube audience, you can open doors. If you had a big Clubhouse audience, there's people who are building up on Clubhouse right now who 6 months you've never heard of, and they're getting Grant Cardone into their rooms, and they're getting Jay Shetty into their rooms, and they've opened the doors. They're now somebody just because of the 3 months of investment they made onto Clubhouse. So prestige and branding can be there. It's just dramatically dropping. It used to be the only way, or one of the only ways. Now there's tons of ways to be able to build your brand. But if that, again, means something to you, then published book still has a little bit of cachet. Editing support was super helpful. Of all the things that a publisher, what you think a publisher helps with, most of the things they don't, but editing was actually really helpful. So on the editing side, I was making typos. I can't believe how many typos I made. I write it out, and I feel like I'm a pretty good writer. I'm not somebody who failed English class. I'm a pretty good writer. And then I would read the whole thing and catch some typos, but then I give it to them like, oh, wow, you made so many wow, I can't believe how many typos I made. It's crazy. I even gave it to my friends and family to go through and read, give it to 30 people each time to go through and read, and they caught some typos, but then still the editors caught typos. So, and there's still one typo in your one word that made it through that everybody missed. So it's a little sad. The editing support is very real. And I think if you can't afford it, then you hire if you're going to self-publish, you hire an editor, or even just try to find who is you have a friend who's just really, really detail oriented and great at editing, who can help you, lend an extra pair of eyes to it. Next, formatting support. Formatting, especially for ebooks, really sucks. If you're creating your book and you make it in a Word document and then you try to translate that to an Amazon format, especially with ebooks where it's like infinite scroll, it's such a giant pain. Now, I gave it to somebody on my team for the self-published stuff. I said, Ray, just figure it out. Because it was driving me nuts, and Ray loves new challenges, but that took a couple weeks of his life, just trying to figure out how to format the book to be on Amazon, especially for the ebook. And when you go with the publisher, they just take care of all of that stuff easily for you. Be in the bookstores. Again, it's less and less and less important. Most bookstores are either closing down or are supplementing. You walk into a bookstore and a lot of them are half furniture stores or lifestyle stores and selling vases and flowers and a bunch of other stuff. So it's not as important. But if you want to get into a bookstore, the publishers have the relationships. It's not impossible as a self-published book, but it's almost impossible as a self-published book to get into bookstores. So again, that means something to you. If you want to roll into your Barnes and Nobles with your family and take a picture, of you with the book here on the shelves, then you have to go with the publisher. If you want to watch the full version of this video, as well as train live with me twice a month to help you build your movement and be around some other amazing people just like you, check out my Movement Makers program. The link to join is right there next to me. Can't wait to see you there. Continue to believe and go join.